Hey there! Welcome back to another video. This time it is something completely out of the box. Welcome to a book review. Yes, I'm reviewing a novel. A novel I picked up from Goodwill for about $1, and I read it, so I wanted to talk about it. So let's get started, shall we? The novel I am reviewing for this video is called The Glow. No, there's no relation to that awesome song from The Last Dragon. This is by a author called Brooks Stanwood, which is actually a pseudonym for a husband and wife writing pair. Specifically, the husband and wife team of Howard Kaminsky and Susan Stanwood Kaminsky. Now, the name definitely does roll off the tongue, and it sounds like an established author name, but it's a pseudonym, much like Richard Bachman was for Stephen King. Or Alan Smithy for a director who doesn't want their name on some shitty movie. Now, this is a book that I got because it was cheap. I wanted to have something to read while I was on the bus, so that's the main reason why I got it. And I guess, it sounded a bit interesting. Here's a little synopsis here. Somewhere in the park, they run. As they run, they watch with hungry eyes the young, loving, healthy couples like the Lawrences. Couples with the glow. And had some good reviews. And New York Times called it a novel of ingenious horror. Frank D. Falletta, who wrote the novel for the film The Entity that The Entity is based on, he said it was all too possible. Elia Kazan called it unsettling, surprising, terrifying. James Fix said it was eerie and spellbinding. There was a couple more reviews that were in the inside here, where you had the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette said the book brings shudders. The climax is surprising and the kind any reader of a sinister book will relish. Sidney Sheldon says a solid suspense story that gradually builds to a horrifying climax, casts an eerie light and shadows that will make the reader look nervously over his shoulder. So a lot of high praise. And a decent cover, definitely compared to the hardback cover, which is terrible. It's laughable. And, the tagline was good. It may make you run for your life or never dare to run again. Now, The Glow is a book that these two writers decided to write because they were witnessing these older people running around and jogging in these powder blue jumpsuits, and they got to thinking that what if we made a novel that showed a sinister side to this, that these people are as fit and as healthy as they are because of some other thing other than just exercising and eating right. And in this novel's particular point of view, they are able to do all this and maintain their youth and their vitality because they're drinking younger people's blood. They're finding a way to drain younger people of their life, of their essence, and then imbibe it so they can remain young and vital and fresh, and make it so they can essentially live forever. Now, that's a good idea. I like the idea of taking health nuts and exercise nuts and making them real nuts. I think that's actually pretty fun. The problem with this book, though, is you can tell that this husband and wife writing team had never written a book before. They even said, well, one of us would do a chapter, and then another one of us would come in and then do a rewrite. So there's no real focus here, because you have two different voices that just randomly appear throughout the novel. Well, there is a movie, and I'll talk about that later, but which is another reason why I wanted to do this video, so I could have a comparison for people. You can watch the novel review and then watch the review of the movie of the same name. Now, there's two different voices going on here, and the novel also takes way too much time to get going. The novel is about over 300 something pages long. It's 320 pages long. And it takes way too long to get going. So it starts to get going by the 200 page mark. Which, if this is a screenplay, that would be way too fucking long. I mean, that would be an hour and a half into the movie when things start to really get interesting. There's some nice character building moments. The novel the writers do a good job creating these characters and making them likable. The couple of Jackie and I believe it's Pete. Jackie and Pete. They do a good job making them a likable couple, and especially Jackie. Jackie comes across as a very lovely gal who has a great personality and some really nice charisma. And once things start to pick up, it is a pretty fast read, I have to admit. I wanted to see how it ended. I knew, I already had assumptions on how things were going to end and how things are going to be revealed and everything like that, because there isn't a lot of surprises here, except for the ending, which pissed me off. I hated the ending. This book goes to show you that even back in 1979, with paperback novels, horror thriller stories were still throwing out the shitty twist ending, which is trying to be shocking, but all it does is just piss the audience off, or piss the person who's reading the book off, because all it did is flip me off. It gave me the fucking middle finger and slapped me in the face with it, with this shitty fucking ending, which is ambiguous, doesn't make much sense, and completely destroys all of the build-up that the book had to this point. I don't understand the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette's the climax is surprising, the kind any reader of a sinister book will relish. No, it is. Yeah, it's surprising, but it's not anything worth relishing. It's completely unsatisfying. It's something straight out of a found footage movie where, nope, they're gonna die. Although they don't actually show them die. The pages don't show that Jackie dies, but you're led to assume that she got captured, and then it's not going to end well for her. And the Twelvers are still going around. The Twelvers is a name for these older people who own this apartment complex that the main characters, Jackie and Pete, were able to get for super cheap. And they are the ones that are essentially letting these younger couples, or these couples that are in their like late 20s, early 30s, to stay in their really affluent apartment for cheap, so that they can drink their blood later and essentially kill them and take their essence away so that they can remain young. Now, that is the gist of the plot of the book. There really isn't. There's a few twists and turns on how the Twelvers find a way to get rid of some people or set things up and so on and so forth. But for the most part, it's just, that's the main plot. It's a horror novel, but it doesn't really have a lot of horror elements. It's more of a straightforward thriller until it gets to the end, and then it has a giant exposition dump, and then it's revealed what they're doing and what their sinister plan is, and then it has a wholly unsatisfying ending where the Twelvers don't get their comeuppance. They just continue to exist and continue to drain people of their life essence, and that's it. I mean, it's very unsatisfying. It really is. It sticks with you in the wrong way, because you're just like, what the fuck did I just read? I hate that. I hate that feeling. I really do. And I know there are people out there who love that type of ending, and to each their own. I'm not a fan of it at all. I really am not, unless the film earns it, or the book earns it. The film, for instance, a film that I can think of right off the bat that earned it is something like The Thing. John Carpenter's The Thing earned that type of ending. A fucking book like The Glow does not earn that type of ending. But there are also some problems with the fact that, yes, it's a book from 1979, but there were some really dated references that I didn't even get at all. So that kind of took me out of it a little bit. It had a nice sense of humor at times, though. But once again, like I said, there's a lot of unfocused stuff. There's too many characters. way too many characters in the book. The book spends way too much time building up these characters and these side characters. The main characters are fine. The 12ers are fine. Why do we have to have all these different chapters and all this different stuff focused on the neighbors in the apartment building, or the Jackie and Pete's friends? I mean, we really don't need to go that in depth on it. I mean, get to the nitty gritty. Get to the thrills. Get to the chills. Stop spilling. Stop slipping and falling on your ass. And then there's some really bad stuff in here. Like, this is a cringe-inducing moment for sure. I cringed physically when I read this. This is one of the worst sex scenes I've ever read in a book, and I want to share it with you guys. Pete, feigning reluctance, followed Jackie into the bedroom. He continued to bitch through half a joint and 2 sips of Cavassier. Great, you're giving me flashbacks to the ladies' man. Not a good thing. Not a good thing at all. And then when Jackie started massaging him with oil of Olay, he became very quiet. I hope the customer won't mind the masseuse removing her scanty bikini briefs. Yeah, great idea. She ran her tongue down the length of his spine. He arched up, consumed by ecstasy and expectation. Her hands and mouth became one. And then he was demanding her. With just the slightest show of resistance at having to exchange one pleasure for another, she turned in toward him. For what seemed like hours, they devoured each other. Like, oh, God. Devoured each other? What? Are they cannibals? What? You don't describe sex like that. That's not sexy. That's just disgusting. That's disgusting. That's gross. As he entered her, Jackie said, "Do I feel different, love? Baby, you feel beautiful." If you're hearing the cat in the background, he's just Olympus just won't shut up today. So I put him outside. So yeah, forgive me. Maybe he thinks that this is too much too. He's like, oh God, that is just terrible. Stop reading. Anyway. As he entered her, Jackie said, "Do I feel different, love? Baby, you feel beautiful." "I'm not wearing that close encounter of the I don't care about anything," he moaned, "except being in you." Ugh. What is this? This is shit straight out of 50 Shades of Grey. This is just awful. "This could be dangerous. Shut up and kiss me. I love your taste." They awoke a little after 3, and then a cold draft slipped over their still enmeshed bodies and caused them to part and scramble under the covers. Thankfully, there's no more cringe-inducing sex scenes in this novel, but fuck me, that's bad. That is terrible. So, whoever's responsible for that one, whether it's Howard or Susan, you get a fail. You failed there. That was an epic fail. So, but, yeah, I mean, there's really nowhere to go from there except, I mean, even further down. But anyway, forgive me for the cringe there. I'm sorry, but I had to share that because that's one of the most cringe-inducing sex scenes I've ever read in my life. Now, the book itself, I would say it's below average. This is a below average novel. It went by at a quick enough pace. It was entertaining. It was okay. It was a time waster. But I could see why whoever gave this to Goodwill gave it to Goodwill, because this is not a book you're going to read again and again and again and again. And it's full of missed opportunities. It's muddled. It's a misfire. But there was some good, interesting stuff here. I like the idea. I like the concept. I like the characters of Jackie and Pete. There were some genuinely chilling moments in this. But it was all for naught because you had a book that wasn't as bright as it could have been because of the authors who clearly were just winging it. And it definitely showed up in the reading. When I read it, it just clearly felt like they were just winging it. And it showed. Now, I don't know what else to say about The Glow, except I really wouldn't recommend this book unless it sounds really interesting to you. But apparently it was successful enough that it made a decent amount of money for the couple, which is good. And there were actually, the film, I mean, well, speaking of film, I'm sorry, I'm so used to, I'm at reviewing movies, this is going to take me a while to get out of that mode. But I'm also confused because there actually is a movie. There's a TV film adaptation of the novel called The Glow, starring Portia de Rossi, Hal Lindley, and Dean Cain. Now, the book actually had the film rights purchased by a different studio years ago, like pretty soon after the book was published, but they never got around to making the movie, which is surprising to me because it sounds like a book that's ripe for an adaptation in the 70s or early 80s. But that never happened. Finally got one in 2002. And that will be the next video. I will be reviewing this TV movie adaptation of the novel, The Glow, and comparing the two and seeing whether or not the TV adaptation improves upon the source material, or actually ends up being worse. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this this book review of The Glow, a little bit something different. I hope you guys enjoyed it. And as always, I will see you guys later. See ya.